This is the Toyota LandCruiser 300 series, and it's good at heaps of different things, but is it worth your money? Well, that's the question that I'm going to help you answer in this review. My name's Matt, this channel's called The Right Car, and if you've already subscribed, thanks very much. If you haven't, please do. Let's take a close look at the 300 series, shall we? There are 6 different versions of the LandCruiser 300 available in Australia, and recently prices have gone up quite a bit for this vehicle. I'll put some pricing for each of the different models before on-road costs on your screen as we go along, and you might want to go to the Toyota website and do the configurator thing and see what it might cost you as a drive-away price, depending on where you live. Now, I reckon that they've put the prices up a little bit to make a bit of room for the new generation Prado, which I'll cover in detail when it comes. Make sure you ring the bell to keep up to date with all of my reviews, because then you'll get notified when that review comes out. All right, so the entry-level version of the 300 series is called the GX, and you can tell it from the outside pretty easily. It's got a snorkel, it's got steel wheels, and it's a 5-seater, and it's also got a carpet-free interior, so it's vinyl flooring. It's also got cloth seat trim as well, and it doesn't have as many features as the versions higher up the range in terms of safety and amenities, so it is pretty basic for $100,000 or thereabouts. But hey, most people who are private buyers will step up to the GXL, which adds a 7-seat layout. It also adds alloy wheels, removes the snorkel, and it gets a few extra features on the inside as well to make it feel a bit more special, including carpet. And there's also blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, as well as front and rear parking sensors as standard for the GXL. So if you're thinking spending the extra 10 grand is not worth your money, I'd say you should do it. And if you can spend a little bit more, you might find that going up to the VX is a nice investment, because you get some features that you will appreciate, like bi-LED headlights. You get different wheels as well. And on the inside, you get fake leather trim with wood grain finishing, a 12.3-inch touchscreen media system with sat-nav, a 10-speaker sound system. You also get a 7-inch digital instrument cluster as well. And you get a moonroof, a surround view camera, and heated and ventilated front seats as well. Up from there is the Sahara grade. It's a 7-seater as well, and it does add a few extra features that make it stand out from the outside especially. Things like chrome exterior trimming. You also get a real leather interior trim, a power tailgate, and a power folding 3rd row seat setup. There's also rear entertainment screens and a JBL 14-speaker sound system, a cool box, a head-up display, heated and ventilated 2nd row seats, and a heated steering wheel as well. The Sahara ZX is sort of the luxury version of this car, and it adds even more money, but you get even more stuff. Things like different wheels, different 20-inch wheels in fact, plus there's also a 5-seat layout, but it has distinct interior carbon look trim, a kick sensor for the power tailgate, drive modes, adaptive suspension, and some other bits as well. And then there's this one here, which is the GR Sport. It's almost the same sort of price as the Sahara ZX. It's a 5-seater as well, and it gets obviously a different look on the outside with the white Toyota lettering on the grille, different front and rear bumpers. It's got 18-inch wheels, so they're smaller, but they get more off-roady tires, and it's also got some different interior stuff like GR Sport seats with GR Sport trimming all around the car. And you also get the Toyota electronic kinetic dynamic suspension system, which is designed to make things better on and off-road. There's front and rear differential locks and a heap of other features besides, and I'll touch on some of the interior finishing soon. But hey, I'm going to tell you a few alternatives that you might want to consider if this might not be the right car for you. If you're looking for a car like this, but you're not sold on this, well, I've got some great alternatives that I reckon you should check out. And if you're thinking $150,000 or more for a Toyota, why not just buy a Lexus? I'm with you. The Lexus LX is a really compelling alternative to this if you are thinking about spending quite a bit of money on your big 4-wheel drive. It has more features and more luxuriousness, and maybe it's not perfect in terms of the drive experience, but nor's this. And I think that the Lexus LX could be a great alternative. Make sure you check out my detailed review. There's a link in the description. Now, another one that you might want to go and check out is the Nissan Patrol. I've done a towing and off-road and on-road test in the Nissan Patrol, the Warrior version in fact, which makes this thing look really expensive. It is a well-priced, a little bit old feeling 4x4 with a 5.7 litre petrol V8. So the money that you're saving on buying a LandCruiser, I guess you could invest in your fuel. But there's now an updated interior for that model, which wasn't available when I tested it. So I think that it does stack up a little bit better now than it did before. And another alternative that I really think you should go and check out, if you're thinking, I only need 5 seats, I want diesel, I want plenty of power, and I need 3.5 tonne towing, go and check out the Volkswagen Touareg. There are a few different versions available, and all of them have a 3.5 tonne towing capacity, but you need to read the fine print about the downball weight on those models. I've covered it all in my review, link in the description or at the top of the screen, and let me know if you think I've missed one, because there are a fair few other options out there that I think are good, but those are the 3 that I reckon are the best alternatives to this. The 300 series is actually about 5 meters long, but it doesn't look that big because it's got a relatively short wheelbase. In fact, it looks a bit top heavy, really. Now, I'll put some figures on your screen, including ground clearance, approach and departure angle. So if you are planning to go off-road, at least you'll know those numbers. And if you're looking at one of the 3-row versions of this vehicle, well, you do have a different number to contend with. But if you are looking at a 5-seat model, it's got 1,131 litres of cargo capacity, which is pretty roomy. Okay, so this is what it's like to sit in the driver's seat of the GR Sport version of the 300. And yes, you've got a GR badge there, and one up there on the starter button, and one comes up on the screen when you start the car, and you've also got a GR emblazoned on the headrest there as well. It's one on the driver's seat too. And look, I think that from the wow factor perspective, it's not bad, but I don't think that it's a benchmark setter in terms of amazingness in here. Not for the money anyway. Look, I do like that this finish on the steering wheel is, well, different to what you might find in some of the other grades. You've got the same sort of frosted silver finish in this version, and this nice material up on the dashboard as well. Head-up display there, digital info element to the screen here. It's not fully digital, as you can see. You've still got regular dials. You do need to get used to using that screen there, but it is a little bit I guess tricky. You use these controls here, and some of those elements you might want to play with quite a bit. So look, it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's pretty simple. It is a Toyota after all. Now, the thing that I find a little bit more difficult is this 12.3-inch touchscreen media system. There's elements of it which are fine, like the fact that you do have a control panel down here for your fan speed and for your air conditioning temperature and stuff like that. Also your seat heating and cooling and your steering wheel heating there as well. And you do have an infotainment control panel there as well with your volume controls and a bunch of other controls there, as you can see. So all of that seems to make sense, but there are elements of this screen which could be better. Things like the fact that it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay, so that's not great, but it's also missing a few other things in terms of the usability. So if you're trying to put in a destination into the sat-nav, for instance, let's do that now, shall we? You might want to search for something. Well, where do you do that? So you'd need to go to, which one is it? Well, it's none of those, is it? Let's go map. Nope. It knows where I am. Okay, so if I go here, will that help me find it? No, that just moves the map over. So I want to go there. No, I don't want to go there. I want to find something. Okay, so there we go. So we search for a destination, and if you're driving, you can't do this. You have to do it while the car is stationary. It's the same with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for mapping as well. It's just really backwards. And also when you are navigating somewhere, there's no stop button. Well, not that I could find anyway. It just gets on your nerves. A lot of the controls blank out when you're driving as well. And there are some other elements to the controls that you really want to get your head around, including, there's one in here. If we go to setup, and then if we go to navigation, and then if we go to detailed navigation, and then we might need to go, you can see I've already turned a lot of these off because they're bloody annoying. You might need to go to speed limit settings. And then, as you can see, if you don't have those things turned off, it will beep and bong at you all the time. In fact, it doesn't beep at you, it talks at you and says something bloody annoying. Anyway, that's a bee out of my bonnet. I just find that this system isn't as user-friendly as some of the other Toyotas out there. And I mean, maybe it's the older Toyotas that are more usable. But look, let's talk about some of the usability in terms of the storage in here. Also, not fantastic if I'm honest. You got this CD player system here, which seems to take up way too much room. You got a USB-A port there, the USB-C port there, a wireless phone charger, a bunch of controls here for your off-roading, and your drive modes are here as well. Now, I'm not going to be doing off-roading as part of this review, but that's just good to know that it's there. It is a permanent four-wheel drive car anyway. You've also got cup holders here with a removable floor section, so you can put a bottle in there if you needed to. And you've also got this cooler box in here. So it's like a fridge essentially, but it also takes up a lot of space and means that you miss out on some storage that you might have otherwise gotten. There's bottle holders in the doors and a decent glove box, but it's not necessarily the most practical space considering the size of this car. So let's see if the back seat space is good enough. This seat is set for my driving position. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot, and I've got enough knee room in front of my legs and enough foot room as well, but it's not necessarily super spacious. For the size of this car on the outside, it's kind of disappointing, in fact. Headroom, at least, is pretty good. As you can see, I've got enough headroom above my hat to be pretty comfortable. Lots of glass as well, which your kids will appreciate if they're sitting in child seats. And speaking of which, there are ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tether points as well. Now, when it comes to the amenities back here, you've got a flip down armrest with a pop-up set of cup holders there, and you've also got bottle holders in the doors and map pockets on the seat backs. And you've also got this nice control panel here, which has a fan controller. You've got dual zone climate control in the back. You've got heating and cooling for the rear seats as well. So that's a nice thing to have. Those are the window seats, I should say. You've also got 2 USB-C ports down there and a 12-volt port as well. So from the amenities perspective, this high-grade version, the GR, is a pretty nice thing. And you've also got some nice usability here. You've got directional air vents in the back there, but also directional vents up there. So that adds some nice factor. You've got LED lights in the back too, which is good because it's a kind of dark zone to sit in. But hey, what do you think about it? I think it's pretty good, but not necessarily the best you can get at this kind of money. All LandCruiser 300 series models use a 3.3 litre twin-turbo V6 diesel engine, making 227 kilowatts and 700 newton meters. It comes with a 10-speed automatic, full-time four-wheel drive, and a centre diff lock is standard. The Sahara ZX model adds a rear limited slip differential, while this one, the GR Sport, features locking front and rear differentials. Now, all versions come with a 750 kilogram unbraked towing capacity and a 3.5 tonne maximum brake towing capacity. No towing in this review though. This car doesn't have a tow bar. Alright, so let's talk about the 300 series, and no, I'm not doing an off-road review as part of this video. And if you're about to go down into the comments and say, oh, what's the point of even doing a 300 review if you're not going to go off-road? Well, have you seen how many of these things live in the city? I'm talking inner city Sydney and Melbourne. I've seen them everywhere in lines waiting at school pickup and drop off. The LandCruiser is a diverse user case, and I don't think that it's necessarily everyone's intention to go off-road. And if you want to watch off-road reviews of this car, there's plenty out there. I've even done one myself for my old work at Cars Guide. I'll put a link in the description just so you can see. It was a comparison test, in fact. And look, I do think that for a lot of people, it's going to be perfectly fine and perfectly likable for an urban driving car. But I think, personally, having driven thousands of cars, that it could be better in a few different ways. Look, mainly it comes down to the fact that it feels its weight and it doesn't feel like it's as planted as it could be in terms of the wheelbase length. So it is quite a short wheelbase for the size of the car and the weight of the car, and it can feel a little bit pitchy nose to tail when you are suddenly on the brakes, or if you're going over mixed bumpy scenarios. Just might not necessarily be as perfect as some of the other, well, luxury SUVs that you can get at this kind of money. And in fact, There's other elements like the fact that the lower grade versions don't come with a surround view camera as standard. I think all vehicles that are this big should come with a surround view camera as standard across the entire range. If you can get it in a $30,000 MG ZS, why the bloody hell can't you get it in a 300 series LandCruiser as standard? It boggles the mind. Now, let's talk about some of the other elements which I like about this car. So, this twin turbo V6 diesel is an absolute bloody corker of an engine. It is so potent, it has so much grunt, so effortless, and whether you have just yourself on board or you have the full complement, all the seats full and a boot full of stuff, as I just did for the last 900 Ks, and I think that this does do that job really, really nicely in terms of the effortlessness, and also the automatic transmission, 10-speed auto, is really, really confident in the way that it shifts as well. And look, the safety systems, I turned off the speed sign or speed zone warnings because they really, really get on my nerves. And this one doesn't even beep at you. It says something like, please obey all traffic regulations. And it does that every time that you might creep up over the set limit on the screen. So I turned it off because it really doesn't gel with me. You might find it really handy, depends. I've got all my points on my license. You might not. So from all that perspective, it seems okay. And the steering as well is not too bad. It's pretty confident in the way that it changes direction, and it's grippy enough too. So look, you're gonna feel like you've got a pretty sure-footed grip on the road surface below. It's got permanent four-wheel drive, so it isn't gonna feel too cumbersome, I don't think, unless you haven't driven something this size before. At that point, it might. So just keep that in mind. I had a few complaints from my passengers, my partner, my daughter, in terms of the bumpiness of the ride. It's not a fantastic ride. So at higher speeds on country roads that are a little bit less perfectly surfaced, you might find that it can get tiresome. She was like pretty unhappy with it, to be honest. And I mean, I have something to hold on to. She didn't necessarily have anything to really hold on to apart from the armrest. So also my daughter in the back, she was in her child seat and she was sitting back and letting the bumps make a noise with her voice. So she was like, So, I mean, if you're prone to disliking bumpy rides, then you might not necessarily like this car very much. But hey, all of that comes back to the fact that this is a serious off-road vehicle. Yes, I know that. But like I said, we're not going off-road in this review. So let's talk about fuel consumption over my rather long distance trip that I've done in this car. Okay, so on your screen, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure, and that's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of different driving scenarios. Now, my 900 Ks of driving was primarily highway driving, a fair bit of traffic jam stuff as well, because I mean, long weekends and going for a road trip, they seem to go hand in hand for a lot of Australians, and I encountered some bad traffic as a result of that. But even so, you'll see what I saw across a mix of driving on your screen now, and I think that's pretty good. If you can achieve that on the daily, I think you'll be happy, but unless your daily includes lots and lots of open road driving, I don't think you will. I think you'll see a little bit higher, especially if you live urban. And hey, you'll also have to keep in mind that it does have a diesel particulate filter that does need to be active at times, so you will need to go for longer distance drives if you buy one of these vehicles so it can do that active burning thing that it needs to do. The LandCruiser 300 series range has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, but not the GR Sport. It doesn't have an applicable safety score, so that might rule it out for you depending on what you're after, but it does still come comprehensively equipped with safety technology and equipment. Now, I'll go through what you get in this range, and there are some differences between the different variants. So across the entire range, you get autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's also connected services with a crash notification system and stolen vehicle tracking as well. You get a reversing camera as standard and 10 airbags as standard as well. And if you step up to the GXL, you also get front and rear parking sensors and rear cross traffic alert and blind spot monitoring, And if you step up further to the VX or any model above that, you also get lane trace assist. And all versions come with adaptive cruise control too. Toyota Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for its model range, and the LandCruiser 300 series gets that as well. But there's also the availability of a 7-year powertrain warranty. So if you make sure that you maintain your vehicle on time, doesn't have to be with Toyota, just as long as it's with an accredited mechanic that can stamp the book, well, you get up to 7 years of powertrain cover. And speaking of servicing, the intervals are every 6 months and 10,000 Ks, which is pretty regular, more regular than some of the rivals out there, that's for sure. And it also means that the capped price servicing plan of $400 per visit for the first 5 years, well, that adds up to $800 per year minimum. So it's not necessarily an affordable vehicle to own, and you don't get roadside assistance included either. But you do get access to the Toyota network of workshops and dealerships across Australia, which might actually mean more to you than anything else. The LandCruiser 300 series definitely has a lot going for it. I don't think I would choose the GR Sport version. It just doesn't seem to be the right pick for me and my needs. I'd probably go for one of the more affordable 7-seat versions instead. Tell me which one you would pick in the comments section below, and if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and ring the bell to keep up to date with all of my other reviews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.